Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to my channel. This is our Simple Abundance Year with Sarah Von Bronick's book, and I hope you're doing well. Hope you've gotten a nice map out of June 2020, some ideas for your bucket list, and also from the joyful simplicities that we talked about in the last video. Oh, good news too. I've had some great feedback about the YouTube Live Fairy Tea Party for this month, so that is definitely going to happen. I will figure out when we can do that and let you guys know, so stay tuned. If you're not already subscribed, definitely subscribe and hit the bell so that you will know whenever I post, and then keep up to date on the status of the Fairy Tea Party. So we are now in the beginning of June. I haven't had time really to come on for videos during these past couple of days. So this is going to be a combination of a few of the first entries in June. And I do have a kitty that's talking to us. She hasn't had her breakfast yet, so she is making herself known. If you hear my kitty Annabelle in the background, that is her. So on June 1st, she introduces us to a Greek goddess named Hestia. You guys know anything about her? I should do more research on her. She's the goddess of the hearth. And Sarah tells us through all of this stuff that we're doing in the home that Hestia is there. And what's interesting about her is that unlike other Greek goddesses that are typically depicted in visions as very god and goddess like, she is actually depicted in human form, which is unique. And Sarah says, most of all, Hestia gently reminds me that tending to household details is a centering activity equivalent to meditation, if we want to make it so. If you feel you have no time to sit down to meditate, that you have a valid excuse for not seeking communion with spirit because the floor must be swept, realize that if you approach your tasks with reverence, not just your home will be transformed. The goddess knows what it takes to run a household, and she has deemed it holy. So should you. What do you think about that? We've talked a little bit about reverence. We talked about walking as meditation. So she's saying that cleaning the house can be meditative. I could see that. I could definitely see that. We talked about home caring being soul caring, right? So that's in line with that. I'm gonna have to look into more about that. I'm always intrigued to learn about the various gods and goddesses in various cultures. I took a class a few years ago at a local UU church about, I forget the name of it. It's a whole program that they have, but you're learning about, in every unit, a different goddess from various traditions. And there were some really interesting stories that I learned during that class. And remember, I told you guys that I have sort of an affinity for the Egyptian culture. Well, when we learned about Isis, she's the one with the wings. You've probably seen depictions of her. I was really taken by her. So like I said, maybe I had a past life in England, I might have there too, but in Egypt, because I just seem to be so drawn to the Egyptian history and everything. So yeah, Isis really was a cool one. But I'll have to look into this goddess of the hearth, Hestia, from the Greek tradition. June 2nd is called In Praise of Modesty. And I wonder if you had an experience like me growing up where you were sort of expected to downplay achievements. We talked about perfectionism and how, I think Sarah said in her family, she was expected to be perfect and make it look easy, right? Or be the best. I don't know that I only put personal pressure on myself usually to be perfect and strive. I didn't really feel a family pressure. But I do remember, as far as pride goes, I still have this voice in my head that says, pride comes before the fall. So I get why parents would not want their kids to be too arrogant. But I hope that as you've gotten older, even if you have a similar experience to that, like I do, that you've been able to celebrate some wins and not live in modesty as a negative. And actually, Sarah has a positive spin on modesty, which I like. I'll read what she says. Let's meditate on modesty for a moment. What if she isn't the self-effacing, shy, retiring, nerdy virtue we've thought she is? What if modesty is a virtue so full of her own smoldering sense of self that she isn't distracted by glitz? Interesting, right? That feels to me like that description of modesty is more about the simplicity principle that we've talked about. What do you think about that? What do you think about when you think of modesty? I like how she puts a positive spin on it. The trick is to go deep enough to mine the core of your authenticity. Because when you love everything that surrounds you, the room loves you back. How about that? Have you guys been going around and doing some of these activities in your home and really thinking about things like how things are positioned and whether you have colors and shapes and how the chi is flowing and whether you need to move things around or get rid of something that doesn't speak to you anymore? Are you doing all of that? Yeah, I'm doing it. Whether I'm actually physically taking the steps is another thing. A lot of it I'm in a pre-contemplation phase, just like with my caution closet. It's like I'm making a list and I'm making a mental note and doing a survey daily of like something new that might stick out to me that I didn't notice or that I've been asleep to, but really it's time to switch it up. Let me know in the comments what you guys are up to. I like reading your comments. And I do feel like I've noticed from the comments that a lot of you are really taking in these entries and thinking about things in a new way that you never really had before. So that's great. June 3rd is called an interior vision inventory. So we've done a lot of inventories so far, and I've shared with you guys about how I have gone around and done assessments in each room. And Sarah encouraged us to do that. So she says it's time for an interior vision inventory. What does that mean? One of the benefits of sorting through your belongings and identifying what's beautiful, useful, or sentimental is the clarity that emerges. You probably will be surprised by how much you already own that is simply waiting to be reconsidered, rearranged, reupholstered, refinished. Don't just be surprised to discover that even if what you live with is beautiful, it might no longer suit you. That's true. Maybe it's time to pass it on, like she suggested, either donating or giving it to a friend. Decorating shouldn't be about how a room looks in a magazine or Instagram feed as much as how you feel in that room. Remember we talked about a sense of charm and feeling cozy? Yeah, those are the things that you want to feel. So even if it doesn't look like it's out of a magazine, if you feel comfortable, then that's true authenticity right there. If you are to create rooms with an authentic view, self-exploration must come before paint chips and fabric swatches. I definitely agree with that, and I'm glad that this is about halfway through the book, because in the earlier months we did so much as far as excavating ourselves, and of course that's a never-ending thing, but we really did delve into figuring out what we love and all of that stuff that really would have been it would have been harder to do all the stuff in the home here if we hadn't really discovered some of that stuff early on. So I agree with that. Personal finishings can bridge the gap while we wait for our interior vision to find outward expression in our surroundings. Maybe you can't manage the cost of a new sofa just yet, but could afford a new scatter rug to place nearby to give it a lift. Maybe you could give a lamp a fresh look with a different shade, arrange flowers in a teapot instead of a vase. That sounds cool. Find a pretty porcelain cup to hold pens. Position a picture on a small easel instead of on a wall. Take the doors off kitchen cabinets. And most important, learn what you can live without. Personal furnishings can be had for little or no money if you are willing to invest passion, perseverance, patience, and a fresh perspective. I agree with that too. You know my little patio tray that I told you about? I didn't spend a dime. I had all of that stuff. It was just a matter of gathering it. Hi, who's hungry? And I like the idea she just gave us. Flowers in a little teapot. That would be cool. I could even put that. I could actually switch out. I have a little teapot. I could switch out for my ball jar that I had my flowers in on my patio tray. I could do a little teapot. That would be cool. And then, little touches, like she says, instead of having just a boring, like staples, wire sort of holder for pens, you could get or find that you already have probably some sort of a porcelain holder for them. Just bringing that beauty in, right? Yeah. What do you think? Today's entry is called Let Passion Be Your Decorator. We've talked a bit about passion recently. Have you given that some thought? You have too? You're very passionate. You have a lot to say. Achieving authentic harmony through our surroundings, laying our hands with sure and certain instinct on that which best expresses our sense of self, begins to occur as order is gradually restored to our lives and our homes. But even if you have not yet found the time to clear closets and drawers, or clutter, or sift and sort through your belongings to decide what is beautiful, useful, or sentimental, don't be discouraged. Important inner work is taking place that will soon become visible. That's true. And like I said, it doesn't have to all happen tomorrow. This is all a process. And even if you're journaling about it, or even just giving it some mental energy right now, it will all begin to emerge. And maybe you'll get to the point, like remember that story about Sarah and her lamps that she hated for 15 years? Maybe you'll get to the point where you just think, I can't stand it any longer, and you just redo the whole room. Let me know if you do something like that. In the next part, I like how she ties her writing in to decorating a home, because there's a lot of similarities, right? You have an idea, you put it together, then you might have to edit, and you might have to rewrite, and you might have a total redo of the whole thing, or so I like the way she ties those two things together, and she calls it revising in the home too as well, just like when you're writing. When you're creating a visual memoir through your surroundings, it is a never-ending story. You don't have to stop. In fact, you really can't. You're always revealing a new aspect of your personality as you discover it. You'll constantly be editing, weeding out what you outgrew, making both subtle and significant decorating changes as the chapters of your life allow for or demand rewrites. We talked in another entry about the story of your life. I like this. She's talking about our homes and the decorating being like that. We're writing an authentic story through our surroundings, and then revising it, and then weeding out things and editing, and the fact that it's a never-ending story. I like that. So how are you guys doing? Let me know how your month's going so far. Like I said, it's been a busy week this week for me. So I will be back tomorrow. I'm stopping there because I will be doing an entry for June 5th on that next theme. I have a lot to say about that. I will definitely see you tomorrow. Hope you're all doing well and hope to hear from you guys about how it's going and what you may be feeling inspired to do and how it's all tying into this journey through authenticity and learning more about Sarah's principles. She mentioned harmony and order. We have joy, beauty, gratitude, and simplicity in addition to those as well. What a year we're having so far. All these crazy things in the world, and we're, just like tomorrow's entry is called, we're coming home to ourselves through all of it. I'm so glad you're here with me. Thanks again, and I will see you tomorrow. Big hug to all of you. Bye-bye.